Nearly 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, one great Sith Lord had waged a destructive war against the Jedi Order and the Republic. Exar was a fallen Jedi who took on the mantle of Dark Lord of the Sith during the era of the Old Sith Wars. A human male, Kun was apprenticed to the respected Jedi Master Vitiate, and in his days as a student, he came across forbidden knowledge of the history of the Sith. His master had discovered that Kun had darkness in him, though the protege was unaware of his great dark side potential. Extremely confident in his own abilities and naturally quick to anger, Kun was filled with a burning curiosity regarding the Sith, and soon went on his own quest to find out as much as he could. His search led him to Onderon, where he became acquainted with the spirit of Freedon Nad, another fallen Jedi turned Sith Lord, and was led to Korriban, where he was trapped and mortally wounded, as Nad had designed. Unwilling to face death and unable to channel the light side of the Force, Kun fully submitted himself to the dark side and used the dark healing art to heal himself. He then traveled to Yavin 4, where he had deposed Nad's spirit, as all Sith would do to their masters. Exar Kun would later be crowned by the spirit of Marco Ragnos, the Dark Lord of the Sith, during the Golden Age before Hyperspace War, and took on Ulic Qel-Droma as his apprentice. Their war against the Republic and the Jedi would be very successful, as Kun recruited more Jedi Knights to betray their masters, leaving the old generation of Jedi Order dwindling and the Republic vulnerable. However, Kun's confrontation with Nomi Sunrider on Ossus eventually led the capture of Ulic Qel-Droma and the exposition of Yavin 4. Unable to confront the full might of Republic Force and Jedi Order, Kun started a ritual to abandon his flesh and became a being of pure energy. Before Kun's Sith spirit could have escaped through the cosmos, Nomi Sunrider had organized the remnants of Jedi Order to create a wall of light and trap his spirit in the Temple of Yavin 4 forever. It was not until Luke Skywalker's rebuilt Jedi Order arrived on Yavin 4 did Kun's spirit resurfaced and tried to continue his evil deeds. Kun's spirit was capable of defeating Master Luke Skywalker, yet he was eventually powerless against Luke's students and the spirit of his old master, Vitiate, and was banished to the void for good. Tenebrae was born as a Sith-human hybrid on the planet Medrias, where he slaughtered thousands at an early age and stripped the ruler of the planet, his father Lord Dramath, of his force and imprisoned his soul. Tenebrae traveled to Korriban, where he was named Darth Vitiate by the same Dark Lord of the Sith that would crown Exar Kun later on. Tenebrae would later take advantage of the Sith species' defeat in the Great Hyperspace War and ascended immortal through a ritual that stripped his homeworld of the Force itself. Emperor Vitiate ruled for thousands of years until two Jedi Knights, Revan and Alak, attempted to kill him after he had influenced the Mandalorians to wage war on the Republic. He subdued the two and made them sit to wage war on the Republic. Revan was redeemed and returned to Droman Caste to finish off Vitiate. Vitiate defeated the legendary Revan again and imprisoned him for 500 years. As his rebuilt Sith Empire waged war against the Republic, Vitiate's plot to consume the entire galaxy of all life was discovered, and a new prominent Jedi Knight, known as Hero of Tython, derailed his plan. Disembodied by the Jedi, Vitiate's weakened spirit consumed Zeost and reappeared as Eternal Emperor Valkorion of the Eternal Empire. After victory against the Republic and the Sith, Valkorion was killed by his son, and his spirit joined the company of the Jedi Outlander, and was later killed in the mind of Outlander. With extreme mastery of the dark side, Tenebrae Darth Vitiate Valkorion returned in his three spiritual forms, and it took the Force and countless Force ghosts of all kinds joined strength with Outlander and the Jedi Order to kill the Emperor once and for all. As all powerful comic characters do, Exar Kun and Emperor Vitiate have more than one version of themselves to represent different feats, aka different power level scaling. For the convenience of our comparison, this one video will only limit to comparing two versions of these Dark Lords, so that we would be able to analyze any potential factors, instead of listing scaling and statements without accurate comparison. The version of Exar Kun we use in this video will be the Prime Exar Kun before his ritual to ascend Sith spirit form, which will include his feats of both Force techniques and lightsaber. The version of Vitiate we use in this video will be Prime Emperor Vitiate, before his disembodiment and destruction of Zeost, which will mainly focus on his feats in the Revan novel and SWTOR game, but also discussing his unrepresented powers, given his later feats being the state of a weakened spirit. Before the video begins, I make these videos for the fun of the game. However, if you were to support me by subscribing and comment on this channel, I would make new videos, including second part of this video, quicker. Exar Kun is one of the greatest Sith Lords in the history of the galaxy, well known for his invention of double-blade lightsaber and undefeated record of lightsaber combat. Kun's feats of lightsaber is more than impressive. Before he ever became a Sith, he defeated his master, Vitiate, Kvas, by channeling force through his lightsaber and overcoming the force-embodied staff used by his master. It is worth mentioning that Vitiate Kvas may not have many feats, but using the force to channeling an ordinary staff into lightsaber-proof Jedi weapon is as impressive as it goes. There are many metals in the galaxy that could stand the energy blade of a lightsaber, yet to enable ordinary material to the extent of defending against lightsaber, Vitiate Kvas's feats could be seen as a similar feat of the Father of Mortis and Jedi Knight, later Grandmaster Satele Shan, who had both used their hand to defend against a lightsaber. The Father of Mortis being completely celestial beings, who clearly had better connection to the Force than most Force users, achieved this feat with ease. Satele Shan was a Jedi Knight when she used this technique, so she struggled to defend against Malgus, which is already more impressive than all two Taminis achieved by Jedi around the time of the Clone War. Voss's feat is to maintain his staff, strengthened by the Force constantly, which is definitely more impressive than the feat of Satele Shan, thus implying his technique of crafting Force energy is on a superior level than Clone War Jedis, whose two Taminis are struggling against all representations of Force lightning. Exar Kun scaled beyond this feat before he discovered his dark side potential, and before he actually becomes a Sith, he had sliced through a wall of Beskar metal under the assistance of the spirit of Freedom Nad. This also suggests that Kun had took a step further on the technique of implementing Force technique to increase power of his blade, reaching a level greater than his previous performance. Before become Sith Lord officially, Exar Kun and Ulic Qel-Droma had battled with lightsaber that could be felt kilometers away, a stream impressive feats that suggests his pure mastery of Force in lightsaber combat. When Marka Ragnos, a powerful Dark Lord of the Sith, crowned Kun as the new Sith Lord, he was given a mark on his forehead and his power had increased permanently. This may also be the reason Kun was able to defeat and kill his master with relative ease during their final confrontation in the Senate room. Overall, Kun's lightsaber technique can be concluded as both fierce and unpredictable. Because of his superiority against most of his combatant, Kun is able to subdue and attack them without concerns of defense, thus implementing his style completely to create traps to finally neutralize his targets. Despite his boasting of being the greatest lightsaber duelist of all time, Kun is indeed a master of lightsaber combat and is definitely superior than 99% of combatant in his skill of using Force technique to enhancing lightsaber powers. In comparison, Vitiate was rather feeble in his lightsaber skills. He had very few records of actually picking up a lightsaber. One scenario is when he defeated the reborn Revan and picked up his lightsaber for a final strike, an action more about mockery rather than any skillful performance. Emperor Vitiate had also used a lightsaber in his fight with the hero of Tython. One may argue that he was weakened because of his failed ritual and was already planning on faking his death, but he and his avatars don't have any considerable feat either. Kun gets the edge of lightsaber dueling and the edge of better weapon. As Emperor of the True Sith, Vitiate's lightsaber was never mentioned to have special functions. Kun's double-edged lightsaber is rather short, as standard double-edged lightsaber. Yet it has the function of switching length of the blade during the combat, adding to Kun's unpredictability. Despite having a relative short reign as Dark Lord of the Sith, comparing to other Sith Lords such as Emperor Vitiate, Emperor Palpatine, and Emperor Krayt, Exar Kun was more than remarkable in his Force feats, even before his ascension as a formless cosmic spirit. My audience must understand that the analysis of feats is much more reliable than the analysis of statements, especially when statements are being contradictorily used in different scenarios. For example, the dialogue in KOTOR 1 seems to favor Darth Malak over Exar Kun, which makes Vitiate, who is more powerful than Revan, who has defeated Malak naturally, Kun's superior. However, this statement could be undermined by the other statement that Kun is the darkest force in the galaxy, making him superior to Emperor Vitiate, the son of Mortis, and Abeloth, who also exist around that time. Rather than using one statement to defame another, it is more subjective to actually look into these characters' different feats and compare them since they are in one same franchise and galaxy. Before his conversion towards the dark side of the Force, Kun's darkness was undiscovered and unexplored. After his encounter with the Sith spirit of Freddin Nad, Kun had several remarkable feats, considering he is only becoming more and more powerful. Kun had first cured himself completely right after turning to the dark side, a powerful demonstration of Sith healing art. Kun's Force Scream were heard across the galaxy, not in actual combat feats, but impressive nonetheless. After arriving on Yavin 4, Kun destroyed a Sith dragon the first time he used a Force amulet. The second time he used the amulet, he destroyed Freddin Nad's Sith spirit, an impressive and rare feat in SW universe, for Sith spirits are hard to destroy, no matter what kind of power level they are on. Not to say Freddin Nad had knowledge inherited from the Golden Age of Sith, making Kun's conduct extremely impressive. Kun's scale of Force use is showed when he lifted a starship on Yavin 4 with one thought and shifted the balance of Force with his dark presence. With all these feats, Kun had just surpassed himself when Marka Ragnos crowned him as the new Dark Lord and given him a permanent shift in power level. Given Marka Ragnos being a spirit powerful enough to threaten Grandmaster Luke's new Jedi Order, and his staff able to give Force to other people, this improvement of power cannot be underestimated. Kun was able to tank the attack from Alima, proving that he is capable of defending against human body-burning level of Force sorcery, and used Force Blast to paralyze opponents with ease. After became the Dark Lord, Kun tanked the Wall of Light from Odan-Ur, the greatest lightside technique Jedi Order had used. During the time of KOTOR 2, it takes the effort of a Jedi Council to perform this effort to cut opponents from Force, while Odan-Ur is able to perform this art all by himself without any preparation. Kun suffered slight damage by falling down and immediately killed Odan-Ur through a technique of Force Crush, demonstrating his defensibility against most powerful Force attacks and reflexability, scaling himself above the Force power of some entire Jedi Council at this point. Kun then proceeded to use mind control ability to paralyze the entirety of Galaxy Senate for a considerable long time without any preparation, proving Kun has extreme powerful mind techniques. During his attack on Ossus, Kun achieved the height of his power in this living body. However, his duel with the Jedi Master Ud Binar is only a stalemate until his Masasi warrior intervened. Ud Binar achieved one of the most impressive feats in the history of SW Universe. After channeling the power of Ossus, he tanked the explosion of 10 supernovas and was able to keep the planet Ossus rather intact in this process. Binar did not channel the power against Kun directly. We could not know if such defensive power, like a Force shield, is possible to attack, or Binar is only saving his power for the imminent supernova explosion. In conclusion, Kun did not tank the supernovas himself, and his victory against Binar is barely proof of his power. Before recognized as a Sith by Marka Ragnos, Tenebrae was able to kill people with his mind easily as an untrained child. His first greatest feat is to strip his father, Lord Dramoth, of his Force ability and imprisoned his soul. Lord Dramoth is also a Sith Lord who is capable of making Sith holocrons, making his skill sets directly scaled to the resourceful Sith Lords of the Golden Age. After named Darth Vitiate, he performed maybe the greatest feat of SW history, the Ritual of Nethema. It is worth noting that his power does not come solely from the ritual. Vitiate was able to control 3,000 Sith Lords before the ritual, as Darth Nearest states. He dominated their mind and drained them of their Force, soul, and life. These Sith Lords are Sith Lords from the Golden Age of the Sith, suggesting that they hold knowledge lost to Sith of later times, confirmed by people like Darth Bane and Kreia. Vitiate then proceeded to strip the entirety of the planet of Force, making Nethema a void in the galaxy. This is beyond impressive, because the Force is not only an energy field of all lives, it encompassed nature, energy, and higher dimensions such as World Between Worlds and Mortis Realm. We could argue that Force itself is a multiversal or even outerversal entity. Darth Vitiate had damaged Force itself to this extent that Mitra Surik, a powerful Jedi Master in her own right, and reborn Revan, who had defeated Darth Malak amplified by the Starforge of the Rakata Infinity Empire, were to suffer and nearly lose their soul in the shapeless, colorless void of Nethema. Vitiate used this ritual to make himself immortal. In the years of his reign, Vitiate never showed any sign of natural decline. This even outscaled the father of Mortis, who was gradually losing his immortality as time passed by. Emperor Vitiate's mind dominance of Revan and Alak was even more impressive, given both had experienced the brutality of the Mandalorian War and had become extremely powerful. The next main feat is Vitiate's defeat of Revan Reborn, which would be described as a one-sided victory, despite Revan being able to took Vitiate by surprise with his newly earned skills. In this duel, Revan was able to push Vitiate to the ground with a combined burst of pure Force energy. However, this Force attack with both light and dark energy does not do any damage to the Emperor, nor did the lightning deflected by Revan. Vitiate was only enraged. Considering he was severely threatened by the fire attack from Revan's droid, it is reasonable to conclude that Darth Vitiate was much more immune to Force attacks, rather than physical attacks. He was also potentially killable should Mitra throw the lightsaber at him when he was distracted, suggesting that the Emperor was far from invulnerable. However, as long as the attack could not kill him immediately, the Emperor could always recover and defend himself against otherwise fatal attacks. He had also showed to easily create Force barrier to push Hero of Tythun away before he decided to rush into the opponent and get killed physically. Vitiate defeated Revan by launching a Force lightning storm to overpower Revan's Tudominus, melting his skin after superheating the Mandalorian helmet Revan was wearing. Vitiate's feats is godly considering how powerful Revan had become at this stage. Reborn Revan had defeated Darth Malak on the Starforge, and by the time of their confrontation, Revan one-shotted Darth Nihilus with minimal diff by turning her own Force storm against her. Darth Nihilus had defeated both Lord Scourge and Mitra Surik by that time. Her Force lightning was able to burn these powerful Force users into a pile of ash. In the Legend continuity, even when Emperor Palpatine was striking with hatred, supposedly his full power, towards an Imperial officer who had betrayed him, he was only able to turn the individual into a fried corpse, rather than completely burned into oblivion. Emperor Vitiate's Force lightning was stated to be infinitely more powerful than Darth Nihilus, making his Force storm one of the most powerful attacks in the history of the galaxy. Vitiate is also a master of mind-related Force techniques. Comparing to Sith sorcery that needs preparation and spells, he is able to create extreme painful and horror experience by simply tapping into the mind of Lord Scourge, marking him superior than norms of Sith sorcery. In conclusion, Darth Vitiate and Exar Kun were both extremely powerful Sith, superior to other Force users of their time and the galactic history. Exar Kun has insane defensive feats that need no preparation, and his attacks are equally, if not more impressive for their fluency and immediate effect. His strikes are surely deadly even for the most powerful enemies, and his Force techniques are diverse enough to respond to different situations. As we had concluded, Kun's scaling is potent enough for him to overcome the greatest Force attack and be placed among the highest ranks of Force combatants. Darth Vitiate has relatively limited combatant Force feats, yet his immortality through Ritual of Nethema had placed him among the highest rank of Force user, including Force entities who are very dependent on the Force as well. Vitiate's reflexity was decent, and his defense is also potent, since he is always powerful enough to stop Force attacks, and he is also great at keeping distance to prevent any hand-to-hand combat. Vitiate's Force attack is direct and powerful. His Force storm can bypass the ultimate material and Force barrier to overcome his enemy, and he can easily conjure horror and mental disabilities that are dangerous to the most powerful Jedi and Sith alike. Vitiate outscaled Exar Kun by his cosmic importance, his attack potency, and his ability to conjure the deadliest attack with the most ease. Though Kun had a variety of Force techniques at his disposal, Vitiate was able to easily defend against the purest Force attack of both light and dark, and respond with fierce Force lightning storm that could overcome even the greatest defensive skill of light side, on the condition that his opponent, Revan, was fully prepared for this attack. Kun was able to tank attack of Wall of Light, yet Vitiate was able to conjure such attack when he was just a boy against his own Sith father. By the time of his heights of power, Kuhn's defense may not be potent enough to withhold him at all. Overall, Darth Vitiate gets the edge as superior Force user. Verdict: the duel between these two legendary Sith Lords would be a combination of the duel between two other legendary duels. The first half of the duel would be similar to Revan and Vitiate's duel in the Emperor's throne room, with Kun replace Revan. Kun would be more aggressive than Revan as he rages against Vitiate, hoping to end the battle quickly with his lightsaber skills. Vitiate, on the other hand, would be more focused, as he would find Kun's connection to Marka Ragnos and the ancient Sith disturbing, so he would try to keep distance from Kun, and doing so by creating force barrier between them, with more intensity than he did with Revan, who he used to defeat and enslave. There are two scenarios here. The first one is Vitiate unleash a force storm at Kun right away. Kun would not be able to defend against himself with lightsaber skills, and he would be forced to switch to force defense. Since he would likely be pushed to the corner of the room during the attempt to approach Vitiate, such defense would not be sufficient, and he would be overwhelmed right away. The other scenario is that Vitiate would not unleash the Force Storm before Kun could react, and Kun would realize he had no chance approaching the Emperor. Thus, Kun would be using his Force attacks right away. Kun have two main options. The first is to use his Sith amulets to destroy Vitiate's body and soul. Considering Vitiate's spirit was able to consume Ziost after being disembodied and weakened, Kun's attack against Vitiate's spirit would not be enough to hurt the Emperor. The physical effect of the amulet would also fail before Vitiate's defense, for he had proven himself capable of enduring his own Force Lightning and Revan's pure Force Energy Burst. Kun's Dark Side Force Blast are not likely to do anything against Emperor Vitiate. The other option is his Force Crush, which is certain a more viable option since it kills immediately and does not take any energy form that could be intervened. This option is also a dead end, though, as Vitiate is able to unleash his mind attack against Kun at any given time or just unleash another bolt of Force Lightning. Vitiate's endurance definitely outscaled Orden-Ur. While Orden-Ur was not killed immediately, the Emperor would have enough time to strike at Kun with any viable means and disturb Kun's Force Crush of Force Kill. The second half of their duel would be like Darth Bane and Xana's duel on Ambria, with Kun taking the place as a superior duelist Bane, and Vitiate taking the place as the superior Force wielder Xana. After deflecting or undermining the Force attacks of Kun, like Xana had tanked Bane's Force Lightning and Force Scream, Vitiate would resort to destroy Kun with a Force Storm that is more powerful than that he used against Revan. Since Kun had no skill of absorbing lightning as light side user, and was not helped with teammates, he would be helpless against the destructive energy of Vitiate's Force Storm, being incinerated within a few minutes. Given his dangerous potential, I believe Vitiate would like to imprison and study Kun, but most likely imprison him in a spirit form. Or he would find the victory amusing that he had proved himself superior to Marka Ragnos' new heir, and decided to kill Kun at the spot. It could go either way. Honestly, Vitiate is more prepared and achieved his full potential due to his mastery of the dark side and his immortality, giving him a great edge against nearly all Star Wars character. Should Kun have another 100 years to develop his skills and mastery, he may be able to close the distance between them quickly to win a lightsaber duel, or at least last longer in their exchange of force attacks. As the verdict ends, I declare Emperor Vitiate the winner out of this ultimate duel among most powerful Force users. I hope you enjoy this video, and until next time.